To start, you're such a legend in this industry. How did the Death Tour come across your desk, and what was it about this documentary that made you want to be a part of it?
Well, it's one of those things that I've lived this. I've been on a death tour, and more importantly, the legend of it I've been familiar with for years, and so many of my peers and contemporaries did the death tour and had great stories to tell about it. So when I heard that this documentary was getting made, and they asked me to kind of come aboard as a producer, I knew that I'd be able to contribute, not just from a wrestling standpoint, but from a personal experience standpoint, and also to just knowing how important these tours are to an individual to kind of prove to yourself and to others if you have what it takes to be in the wrestling business, because it's not easy. And the early days, especially, you have to fight and crawl and claw your way into getting gigs. And as hard as this one is, the death tour, so many people want to do it, because A, it's work, and B, all right, I've heard so
Mm.
much about this. Let me experience it for myself and see if it's as bad or as good as people are saying.
As you're saying, for so many of these up and coming wrestlers, this is the first glimpse into this world, the community, and its impact. As you were executively producing this film and seeing firsthand the experiences, did that bring any memories from when you first started? When you look back at all the success that you've had, is there a moment that stands out?
I mean, I think just being involved in one, and the fact that it's been going on for so many decades, like I said, and you hear about it in the documentary about how you're driving 16 hours on a frozen lake, and that might sound like an adventure to us talking about it right now, but when you're actually doing it, it really sucks. It's cold, it's tedious, it's arduous, it's dangerous. I mean, we talk about in the movie about how the lake cracks and these vans are going down, a couple feet, in the water. That's terrifying. So you're doing this because you want to advance your career or you want to build your career, but there's also, physical danger too. So um, I just think the whole concept of it is fantastic. But what we really captured in this film was so much more than that,
Yeah.
the individual stories of the wrestlers, and the individual stories of the towns that the show is coming to. There's not a lot going on in northern Manitoba and Blood Vein and God's Lake and all these places. And when wrestling comes to town, it's like the Stones. It's like WrestleMania. It's like the biggest thing ever. And whether there's 100 people there or 500 people there, for those people, it's something you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of influence in that. So I think we were able to capture that in this film as well, just how important it is for the wrestling show to come to town, what that means to the people in the ring and the people out.
Mhm. Yeah, great answer. Perfect segue to this next question. But there's a moment in the documentary where Massive Damage discusses how he almost quit the sport, but it's about having that one person who believes in you and the impact that they can have on your career. Who was that person for you that's influenced your own wrestling career?
I mean, there was a lot, and I never, I mean, and that's the story of Massive Damage. The story of Chris Jericho is
Yeah.
there was never a moment where I ever considered quitting. There was no backup
Mm.
and there was no safety net. So, who was that person? And it was me, because I believed in myself, and um, I was lucky in that I got started to get, I had a full-time job wrestling in Mexico and Japan, so I didn't have to worry about the death tours every February when it came around and all my contemporaries were going on them. I was like, wow. I mean, like, I'm happy I'm in Tokyo this week. But if I wasn't, if I didn't have those gigs, I would have been the first in line to give Tony Condello my tape and pictures and say, hey, dude, can I come with you again this year? So like I said, it was work, but it was also a badge of honor. Like, here we go, man. You know how
Yeah.
hard this is going to be, so let's grit our teeth and bear it. And the time you spend in the ring is almost the payoff. It's the reward for doing this trip, but it's the other 23 hours plus that you're traveling that really kind of sets the tone as to whether you have what it takes to be in the business.
And I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but the wrestling industry is an easy one to be a part of. I mean, we see in this documentary the sacrifices that you all have to make to be at the top of this sport. If you were to give advice to any up and coming wrestler who's trying to make it in this industry, what would it be and why?
I mean, you got to work as much as you can when you first start. You got to get those reps and get those experiences, and that's why something like the Death Tour is so valuable to a young wrestler. You're getting so many matches in a short period of time. So you really get those reps, which is what you need to understand what your character is and how to control a crowd. And once again, you're learning lessons outside of them. You'll never forget what it's like traveling, across a frozen lake. You'll never forget that. And those are the experiences too that are so invaluable that we wanted to really capture on camera. Like not just the grueling nature of it, but the fun part of it too, the
Yeah.
beauty of it, and the things that you'll see on this tour that you'll never see anywhere else. And so there are a lot of benefits and great memories. I think back to the one I did. Yeah, there's so many great memories that I can think of. And for all of my contemporaries, you could make another documentary about the death tour that's just all the hilarious, ridiculous stories that happened. And we kind of touch on that a little bit in this, but this is so much deeper the way we went on this side, so that you can make another documentary, a sequel to the death tour, just
Yeah.
about the stories you could tell about being on it.
Yeah, you need to pitch this to the co-directors, and Stefan's been really
I'll do it
open.
myself. I'll do it myself.
Stefan's been really open about the fact that he doesn't come from this world. What was it like getting to collaborate with him and Sonia and bring them into your world and making sure that authenticity was displayed on screen?
Well, that's why when the concept came up of me being involved as an executive producer, I was really interested in it because there's so many, and you know this, any movie made about wrestling, it never
Yeah,
really resonates because people don't understand it. It's a very difficult world to understand. You can say, "Oh yeah, sure, wrestling," but wrestling is neither fish nor fowl. And dealing with wrestlers and the people that want to be wrestlers, like we're all insane, like literally, you have to be in this job. So for me to be involved in it and kind of tighten the screws and dot the I's and cross the T's, it was important to me, and looking at it from a filmmaker standpoint, I think it's good to have, another set of eyes on going, this story needs to be more developed. Do we have more footage of this? Or this story is too long. We need to cut this down. It's just too tedious. And I think sometimes, when you're an artist, everything you do is genius. This is genius. And you have
mhm,
somebody else going, no, it could be better. That's the creative, headbutting that is good. I mean, it's
yeah,
frustrating at times, but it's also good. And that's what makes award-winning films or films that premiere at a film festival as prestigious as Slamdance. When there's thousands of films being submitted and ours is one that's chosen, there's a reason
yeah.
for that because it's really good. And there's a reason it's really good because you had some great creative minds working on it to put together the best possible film you could.
One of the best documentaries I've seen. I got one final question for you. One of the beautiful things about filmmaking is its ability to bring awareness to timely subject matter, like the suicide epidemic that these indigenous communities are facing. What do you hope audiences take away after they see this, specifically at Slamdance?
I mean, that's another thing, you that's kind of the story of the film that really, really resonates is just how hard it is for these people to be living on these reservations and how much of a breath of life and a beam of light it is when wrestling comes to town. Because what else is
Yeah,
coming to town? The Stones aren't coming to Blood Vein, Manitoba. So that's something else we were able to capture, just how important to the community these shows are, because there is so much darkness. So to be able to bring the light is very important, and it's called the Death Tour. Nobody's literally dying, but we're talking about how, once again, how hard it is and how grueling it is. But when the tour comes to town, there's nothing dark about it. It's very much a
yeah.
positive, enlightening experience for the people in the ring and the people watching outside the ring.